that his cabinet could have done better this far in his tenure. And he said changes will be coming shortly. Well, today, on Thursday, changes have arrived. And this is reminiscent of yet another Thursday back in 2005 when President Kibaki did the same thing, dissolving his entire cabinet and starting from scratch. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in for interesting times. Blink and you will miss it. But if you keep it right here on the home of Untold Stories, TV47, we shall be keeping you abreast, up to date, and in the mix with all that is happening across your world. Now, let us get into what's happening in your country today, as well as across the world. But first, the highlights, then we do more. Finally, after a period of soul-searching and evaluating the performance of his cabinet, the president has decided to dissolve it.
Given to me by Article 1521 and 1525B of the Constitution and Sections 12 of the Office of the Attorney General's Act, decided to dismiss with immediate effect all the Cabinet Secretaries and Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, of the Cabinet of Kenya.
Additional measures will be announced in due course. And the cabinet dissolution comes just days after opposition leader Raila Odinga showed his support to the president while assenting to the IEBC bill.
Hakuna ubaya Raila Odinga akileta watu wake waingie serikali. Hakuna ubaya hawa jinsi pia wakichaguliwa hata wapate waziri waingie serikali.
Could we potentially see opposition leaders included in the new cabinet? And Chief Justice Martha Koome joins the judiciary in mourning the passing of High Court Judge David Majanja, who died on Wednesday.
The judiciary indeed at the JSC and his family are saddened by the sudden death of your Honorable Mr. Justice Majanja.
Folks, my name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my absolute pleasure to bring you the news and the discussion a little bit later on. And I'm assisted by Rhoda Nyamai on sign language right here. With that out of the way, shall we begin? President William Ruto has dismissed all cabinet secretaries, including the Attorney General Justin Muturi. While giving an address at the State House, Nairobi, the head of state noted that only the offices of the Deputy President and the Prime Cabinet Secretary were unaffected by this change. Ruga Ival was at State House and brings you this report.
In line with the powers given to me by Article 1521 and 1525B of the Constitution and Sections 12 of the Office of the Attorney General's Act.
Having utilized the necessary provisions in the Kenyan Constitution, President William Ruto has wielded his pen against his cabinet secretaries, and now Kenyans are eagerly waiting for the new face of the cabinet.
Decided to dismiss with immediate effect all the cabinet secretaries and Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, of the Cabinet of Kenya.
President Ruto has suspended 21 CSs, including Attorney General Justin Muturi, Interior CS Kithure Kindiki, CS Agriculture Mithika Linturi, CS Health Susan Nahumicha, Education CS Ezekiel Machogo, and Public Service CS Moses Kuria, among others. The Prime Cabinet Secretary and Foreign Affairs Musalia Mudavadi is the only one who didn't face the dissolving wrath.
Except the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs, and of course, the Office of the Deputy President is not affected in any way.
President William Ruto said this move comes after a series of performance evaluations of each and every minister since taking the office in the year 2022.
Listening keenly to what the people of Kenya have said, and after a holistic appraisal of the performance of my cabinet and its achievements and challenges.
The head of state continued to reveal while he continues to appoint a new cabinet, government operations will continue under the leadership of principal secretaries and other relevant officials.
I will immediately engage in extensive consultations across different sectors and political formations.
However, President William Ruto cited some achievements under his cabinet, including the hiring of 56,000 teachers, 160,000 youth jobs under the Affordable Housing Plan. This has occurred following a series of protests led by the Gen Zs demanding good governance in Kenya, the president promising to continue in the same vein alongside successfully persuading the president to scrap the 2024 finance bill. The youth-led protest also prompted Ruto to announce various measures to cut government spending, including removing badges for the offices of the First Lady and Deputy First Lady, as well as tightening expenditures in his and other public offices. The fired cabinet secretaries have been in office for barely 2 years. Now, all eyes set on William Ruto on who is going to form the new cabinet. Ruga Eval, TV47.
And now the question on many of you's lips. So what next? What now? After the dismissal of 22 cabinet secretaries today. Well, the president in his speech this afternoon failed to give timelines within which to expect a new cabinet. But our reporter Sheila Chalangat dives into what the constitution provides for, as well as the measures put in place by the president to ensure a smooth running of government.
Our cabinet secretaries who've been appointed and sworn in this morning. To all of you, I have had the occasion to congratulate you personally.
Thursday marked 1 year, 8 months and 15 days since assuming office of the 22 cabinet secretaries dismissed today. A move the president said came after a reflection and after listening to Kenyans, a first for a president in power to dismiss his cabinet after the 2010 constitution was promulgated.
The operations of government will continue uninterrupted under the guidance of principal secretaries and other relevant officials.
And although he pegged the dismissal of the CSs on Article 152 of the Constitution, it remains vague on the timelines within which another cabinet would be appointed.
The Constitution is not very specific as to how long the president will take, so he can take his time. But obviously it is also necessary that the country is run in terms of the constitution with a cabinet in place. So we expect the president to move with speed and within reasonable time be able to constitute his cabinet. Well aware that when he constitutes this cabinet, if he appoints new cabinet secretaries, they'll have to go through parliamentary vetting, and this will take some time. So in terms of the constitution, to say the specific number of days have not been provided. So he has time to constitute his cabinet.
The last time a similar occurrence took place was in 2005 after a failed referendum when the then President Mwai Kibaki fired his ministers. At the time, President Kibaki announced that he would run the government with his vice Mudavadi together for 2 weeks before naming other ministers. For what's next, however, the president has hinted at a broad-based government setting.
A broad-based government that will assist me in accelerating and expediting the necessary, urgent, and irreversible implementation of the program that we have.
After his swearing in, President William Ruto took 15 days to unveil his cabinet, and now all eyes are on the president as he prepares to announce his new cabinet and the additional measures he has promised. Sheila Chalangat for TV47.
Now, after a series of indirect warnings from President William Ruto, the head of state has finally cracked the whip on firing the entire cabinet to allow for a comprehensive restructuring of his administration. This decision comes amid intense pressure from the youth-led protests, urging the president to act swiftly and ensure effective service delivery to Kenyans. As Paul Kirobi reports, many Kenyans did not expect the president to take such a drastic step, especially against what looks like his close allies.
President William Ruto's decision to dismiss the entire cabinet might not have come as a surprise to some ministers, especially those who have been in the spotlight recently. The president has in the past expressed concerns about many of his ministers' lack of understanding their portfolios, raising serious doubts about their ability to effectively serve the Kenyan people. Today's decision came under intense pressure following recent demonstrations that negatively impacted the country's economy. Some have praised the head of state for making such a bold move, believing it will give him the opportunity to restructure the entire government. Some have also urged the president to reduce the number of cabinet secretaries to at least 15.
Agianza pale juu prime cabinet minister huyo ni mmoja wa wale ambao wangeweza kuguza, ndio tuone kwamba ametusikiza vizuri kama wananchi ambao anawaongoza. Tena kupitia pale kwa kina principal secretaries pia huko angeangalia vizuri apunguze.
That there are some things that we can see there is handshake. Where we were refusing, now we shall still come in that handshake. We are still creating more problems.
I'll advise him to use his own wisdom to choose the leaders. We expect that from every tribe in our country, we get the leaders from the CSS.
Kuweka wanasiasa kama wawili, wengine wakwe ni wale wamesomea hiyo maneno, kama ni tourism, kama ni mambo ya uchumi. Weka watu, wajana kuweka watu kwa sababu mtu alikutafutia kura ama nini.
The dismissed cabinet secretaries maintained a close relationship with the head of state for at least 2 years, serving under the guidance of the bottom-up economic model. However, this model now appears to be falling short of the president's vision. Some are now concerned about whether the head of state's decision is merely superficial, fearing he might reappoint the same individuals to different government positions.
Anapoenda kuchagua wafanyikazi wengine katika baraza lake la mawaziri, ajue ya kwamba sio wakati ule alikuwa anafanya kitu kwa nguvu. Lazima kila mtu afanyiwe ukaguzi kama amehitimu katika hiyo kazi yenye anapewa.
Juu wengine tulikuwa tunaona hakuna kazi wanafanya, hakuna faida. Na hapo mbeleni kwanza mimi kwa namna mimi nilikuwa wa UDA. Na nilitoka kwa sababu ya ngumu ile niliona.
Wananchi hawana imani na wale wa mbunge. Kwa hivyo hata mbunge akidisolve mbunge turudi kwa uchaguzi. Hiyo atakuwa amefanya kitu kizuri, lakini saa hizi ni kama kujaribu amejaribu.
President William Ruto has made a number of changes in the running of his government in the past, but things have seemed not to be working for him, with many waiting to see his next step after the bold move. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, even as President Ruto was preparing to dismiss his entire cabinet following pressure from the youth who demanded change, many cabinet secretaries were busy with their duties, unaware that the shocker that awaited them. Or did they? Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi led a contingent of other CSs at the Kenya School of Government as others launched projects that looks like some of them will not be able to execute across the country, at least for now. Mike Kagwongo with the details.
Thursday morning at the Kenya School of Government, 7 former cabinet secretaries converged in an official duty, unaware of what would befall their fate in the Kenya Kwanza government later in the day. Led by Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi at the inaugural National Development Implementation Committee meeting at the Kenya School of Government in Nairobi, the 7 government officials took notes of the discussed issues with clear anticipation of execution. The others were former Attorney General Justin Muturi, former Defense CS Aden Duale, Susan Nahumicha of Health, Ababu Namwamba of Sports, Njuguna Ndongo of Treasury, Simon Chelugui of Cooperatives and MSMEs, Florence Bore of Labor, Zachary Njeru of Water and former East Africa Community CS Penina Malonza, Head of Public Service Felix Kosgei and Solicitor General Shadrach Mose also graced the event. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi admitted that some government officials have given the youth ample reasons to protest across the country.
We must work together to build better relations between Parliament, constitutional commissions, county governments, and above all, with the people of Kenya. The events of the past 2 weeks have taught us important lessons. We must listen more, communicate better, and support His Excellency the President to deliver on his promises to the people.
The seven, however, may not be able to accomplish what they discussed Thursday morning, following President William Ruto's decision to dissolve the cabinet. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, by now, you know, President William Ruto has dissolved his entire cabinet, creating uncertainty over numerous key projects initiated by the now dissolved cabinet. As the nation grapples with this sudden political shift, the fate of crucial initiatives across the various ministries hangs in the balance. Andreen Kilemi reports.
Tuesday's afternoon dissolution of the cabinet by President William Ruto has now left many questioning the future of projects started by the now former cabinet secretaries. The fate of several key initiatives now hanging in the balance. One such key project is the Social Health Authority, commonly known as SHA, which was established to replace the National Health Insurance Fund (NHIF) under the leadership of former Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumicha. However, just 11 days into its implementation, the SHA faces an uncertain future amid resistance from Kenyans who believe it does not adequately meet their needs. Another major project now in limbo is the full implementation of competency-based curriculum CBC. Launched in 2017, the CBC is set to see its first cohort join grade 9 in just under 5 months. The construction of additional classrooms in primary schools where the learners will be domiciled, also remains incomplete. Despite the government's assurance that construction of 9,000 classrooms has begun, the progress has been slower than anticipated, raising concerns about the readiness of facilities to accommodate the incoming students.
Grade 9 be moved to secondary schools. We did calculate the amount of money that is required to build classes in the primary schools. It was going to about 24 billion.
Under the Ministry of Sports, formerly headed by Ababu Namwamba, the logistics and the overall coordination of upcoming Olympics in Paris for the national athletics team hangs in the balance with the abrupt change of guard in the ministry.
Leo tumekuja hapa kukagua miradi.
Just 2 days ago, the Ministry of Transport and Public Works unveiled plans to construct 13 new commuter rail stations within Nairobi metropolitan areas. The dissolution of the cabinet could put the continuation of the project at risk.
The operations of government will continue uninterrupted under the guidance of principal secretaries and other relevant officials.
The coming weeks will be crucial in determining whether these initiatives can continue smoothly or if they will face significant delays and disruptions. Andreen Kilemi, TV47.
Now, President William Ruto campaigned on what he called a hustler narrative. But Kenyans could not hide their displeasure with the first cabinet nominees, all who were approved in the National Assembly and later proceeded to be sworn in. However, their net worth shocked many who felt that they did not represent the face of the hustler nation. George Meringa reminds us of their net worth.
When the 22 nominees for the position of Cabinet Secretary appeared before the National Assembly Committee for vetting in October 2022, one thing stood out: their net worth. For a government that had campaigned on a hustler narrative, Kenyans were appalled, to say the least, at the net worth of the Cabinet Secretaries, whom they felt did not represent the hustler nation. The Public Service Commission requires that every public officer makes public their net worth. Franklin Mithika Linturi, who had served as senator for Meru County and was eyeing the governor's position in the 2022 election, declared that he was worth 1.2 billion shillings. Simon Chelugui, who was Labour Cabinet Secretary, was considered the richest CS in Uhuru Kenyatta's government. His net worth stood at 993 million shillings. Professor Kithure Kindiki, who had served as Tharaka Nithi Senator, declared his net worth at 544 million shillings. Treasury would be under Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, who had served as Central Bank Governor. His net worth at the time stood at 950 million shillings. Aisha Jumwa, who had just wound up as Malindi MP, declared her net worth at 100 million shillings. Aiden Duale, who was heading to Ulinzi House as Defense CS, declared that he makes 10 million shillings annually from his rental income and his net worth stood at 851 million shillings. Alice Wahome, former Kandara MP, said her net worth was 392 million shillings. Dr. Alfred Mutua's net worth at 420 million shillings was questioned by Minority Whip Junet Mohammed. Mutua had served as a two-term Machakos County Governor. Moses Kuria, on the other hand, declared his net worth at 750 million shillings. Rebecca Miano, on her part, declared a net worth of 397 million shillings. Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen, who had served as Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet County, said his net worth stood at 550 million shillings. Rosalinda Soipan Tuya, who was to take the helm at Environment and Forestry, declared her net worth at 156 million shillings. Perhaps the shocker for the least worth CS nominee was little-known Zakaria Mwanginjeru, whose net worth stood at 80 million shillings. Penina Malonza, on her part, declared a net worth of 300 million shillings. Ezekiel Machogu, who was taking up reins at the Ministry of Education, said he was worth 590 million shillings. Davis Chirchir, who had a stint in the Ruto government, declared a net worth of 482 million shillings. Ababu Namwamba, who was CAS Foreign Affairs in Uhuru Kenyatta's government, declared a net worth of 425 million shillings. Salim Mvuria, on the other hand, said he was worth 120 million shillings. Florence Bore declared a net worth of 200 million shillings. Eliud Owalo declared a net worth of 645 million shillings. Susan Nakuminsha Wafula, on her part, declared a net worth of 101 million shillings. Justin Biden Muturi, who had served a 2-year term as Speaker of the National Assembly and was to take the helm at Sharia House as Attorney General, declared his net worth at 700 million shillings. During their tenure, a section of cabinet secretaries were castigated by the largesse and opulence, with Kenyans raising questions. As President William Ruto embarks on forming a broad-based government, Kenyans will wait to see the new crop of nominees. George Maringa, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, away from the capital and into the counties, and demonstrations dubbed Occupy Counties were witnessed in different parts of the country, including Bomet and Machakos County, with the youthful protesters aiming to occupy the counties, the governor's offices and other key infrastructures in order to raise their grievances. Take a look.
Hundreds of youths took to the streets of Bomet town, with the town turned into a battleground as the youthful protesters tried to march to the county governor's office. Transport along Bomet-Narok Highway was disrupted as protesters lit fires, demanding better county services and accountability and better services delivery by Barchok's county government. The roadie protesters, who were youthful, lit a bonfire along Narok-Bomet Highway, paralyzing the transport system, a situation that forced most businesses to close down. The demonstrators were calling for improved governance, accountability and service delivery, highlighting their frustrations at what they perceived as little progress despite substantial resources allocated to the district by the National Treasury.
Your time is...
The situation was similar in Machakos County after the protesters took to the streets of Machakos to protest against what they termed as bad governance by the Machakos County government. The angry protesters lit fire along the road, with police officers taking charge to control the road crowd. Samira Mohammed, TV47.
The apparent data management issues facing the Hustler Fund may be the reasons for discrepancies flagged by the Auditor General for the President's flagship project, and not corruption, as concluded. This is according to the Principal Secretary for the State Department of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Susan Mangeni, who says there is no double lending, theft or misappropriation of funds at this particular fund, and that all issues raised in the damning report against the fund will be cleared in due time. Ibak Said with the details.
For the sudden dissolution of the cabinet by the head of state, causing a furore both online and on the streets, the president highlighted the wins of the now former cabinet members, a key flagship project making it to the fore of his address, the Hustler Fund.
We did roll out the Hustler Fund that today benefits 2 million Kenyans. And we have 7 million Kenyans who had been denied access to financial services by credit reference bureaus.
President Ruto crowning it as an achievement under the bottom-up economic model, despite the wrought and crippling issues revealed by the Office of the Auditor General, stating unequivocally that over 10.6 billion shillings of the funds had been unaccounted for in the financial period 2022-2023, and around 8 billion shillings of the public funds might never be regained.
And because the product is 100% digital. So we get these reports from those technical, the technical systems. So they keep on updating us. And where we get updated every day. So it is possible that our website will not be up to date.
In an interview on TV47, it was revealed that even the figures on the Hustler Fund official website did not match with those provided by PS Susan Mangeni, where she stated that the amount disbursed was over 54.5 billion shillings, while the site reflected 52,945,855,160 shillings, a figure that still reflects on the site this very evening. When asked of this discrepancy, the PS said,
"It is a telecom person and a bank person that keeps on centralizing this data and putting it where we sit. So probably whoever is supposed to update, I don't know when was this last done. I might be wrong, but if we were to check, I don't know when it was last done."
This revelation put the integrity of the Financial Inclusion Fund in question, proving the blaring implication that data mismanagement rendered the report of the public auditors inconclusive as true. While dissecting the numbers further, it was revealed that the number of borrowers and even that of savings accrued bore a huge difference. Among the major issues that the Auditor General fixed a magnifying lens on included the lending of funds to unidentified individuals, double lending where the first loan was not paid, and a closing of accounts after large sums of public money was lent, all issues which the PS dismissed and said that further engagements with the Office of the Auditor General was underway to ensure the auditors understood how their systems worked, saying that this was all a minor misunderstanding.
I think what the report of Auditor General in that particular issue was pointing to the repayment issue. Remember, so far, in terms of the capital, we put into this fund the last 18 months a total of 12.8 billion.
All this amount is going to be accounted for?
All the amount that has been given out can be accounted for. For example, we know who still has an outstanding loan. We know who they are. They've been defined. You can be able to trace to them.
And as for the missing accruals on savings,
so we agreed every year, at the end of every year, we'll be topping up the interest.
So they will see it at the end of the year?
Yeah, they will see it at the end of the year.
Ibak Said for TV47.
On that note, we want to take a short break. When you see us again in just a couple of minutes, I will be accompanied by a panel of gentlemen here to crack this matter and elicit or extract all the insight that we can from it. So on Insight tonight, we'll look at the dissolution of cabinet. What happened to make this? What will happen after this? And all that jazz. My name is Victor Moyakane. We'll be right back after this.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni Ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that, so when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO and the rest of.
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business. It's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata ambao ni pesa ya kusave. Wallahi. Ambao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Here on Beyond the Limit, we celebrate the extraordinary achievements of individuals who redefine possibilities. In a journey of resilience and determination, these individuals demonstrate that limitations are merely stepping stones to greatness.
I'm Nancy Njoroge, a mother of 3. I have 2 girls and a boy who is Clinton and who is autistic.
When my heart got healed, I decided to come out to be creating CP awareness, to let other people know that there is such a condition, and people that has it is not that they are witches.
Together, let's go beyond the limit every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Insight Tonight. And with me are 3 gentlemen here to help us understand what exactly was happening behind the scenes and beyond what we saw on camera. But before I introduce them, I'd like to kind of set the scene, and to help us do that is none other than our senior political reporter, that is Apollo Kamau. And Apollo brings us this story where the decision of the president emanated from weeks of Gen Z protests and so on. But first, let's have a look at what Apollo prepared for us, which will set the stage for the conversation. Take a look.
In hot mirrors, former President Mwai Kibaki's sacking of the cabinet after the 2005 national referendum, which he lost, history has repeated itself 19 years later. With the power of the people coming into play, after Gen Z protesters forced President William Ruto to act and clean the mess in his cabinet, starting with the war on corruption, amid public outcry on public officers displaying opulence on social media as Kenyans continue to grapple with the high cost of living.
This is the right time the president must, not should, must stamp authority. For the political temperatures to go down, kila mtu Kenya aridhike, the president must take action. He must dissolve his cabinet.
And the writing was on the wall. not a matter of if but when, after the finance bill proposing punitive taxes was withdrawn, shifting the nation's focal attention on large spending in the Kenya Kwanza administration. The invasion of parliament and a threat to occupy State House, serving as a no-confidence vote in the Kenya Kwanza administration, as public pressure built up on a government Kenyans said was living out of touch with the rest of Kenyans.
People are angry and hate public servants because of our own making. The public display of wealth and opulence.
With pressure mounting on the president home and abroad, the president had no option but to implement austerity measures while seemingly proposing a government of national unity to include all Kenyans. On Tuesday this week, President Ruto held a closed-door meeting with opposition leader Raila Odinga, who afterwards endorsed dialogue, calls that were rejected by fellow Azimio principals.
So mimi nakubaliana ya kwamba hata ikiwezekana, we can even form a government of national unity, bora tukuwe na amani kwa Kenya yetu. Hakuna ubaya Raila Odinga akileta watu wake waingie serikali. Hakuna ubaya hawa jinsi pia wakichaguliwa hata wapate waziri waingie serikali.
Prime Cabinet Secretary Mudavadi survived the purge in order to coordinate government ministries. Apul Kamau, TV47.
All right, now with that scene setter, I would like to introduce the gentleman that we have with us tonight. First of all, to my immediate right is Mr. Barnabas Kiplagat Boyd. You are a political strategist and analyst. Basically, you understand what's going on. Karibu sana. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, viewers.
Asante. Next to him is Mr. Joe Khalende. You are an advocate of the High Court as well as a political analyst.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And finally, not least, we have Mr. Peter Njagi, who's also a man of letters, a man of the law, and you're also a political analyst. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, karibuni. Straight away, here's a question. What just happened? I know some people were in the know, but just talk to us a little bit about the run-up to this. You know, some people say, mene tekel, you know, the writing was on the wall. But Mr. Njagi, from where you sit, did you see this coming? Did you expect it?
Absolutely. I expected it to happen sooner than later. Because four things that to maybe buttress that particular position. In the time of crisis, in any crisis, the buck stops with the leadership. And the leadership definitely has to act. Otherwise, if it doesn't act, it's actually bound to what we could describe as self-destruction. And even in the ancient days, you know, even the kings could fatten their best friends just that if there's a calamity, maybe a flood or something to do even with an appraisal, the friend could be sacrificed and maybe the temperatures could go down.
So you expected it?
I expected it because heads had to roll. All because right. In the absence of that, the head of state, who is the president, was one to roll.
All right. Interesting way to put it. Mr. Khalende, from what you see, did you expect this?
For the lovers of history and those who understand geopolitics, most specifically the United States history, in 1944, there was a gentleman called Truman. He was the head of the Congress Committee, which was later called the Truman Committee, which was tasked to investigate and help the government to reduce the wastages during the war and to help the government be very effective. Then Truman came into power in 1945 to 1953. And on his desk at the Oval Office, he had a sign which stated that the buck stops here. And the buck stops at the president. He had to take action.
All right.
And by saying the buck stops with the president, it is the president who made the decision of picking and giving people opportunity to serve in his cabinet. And the decision that they made as cabinet secretary, some were good decisions for this country, and some actions were bad. Some actions led to this protest, and it's the same president who has to take the action to dismiss the cabinet.
All right. Yes. And now, Mr. Boyd.
First of all, I think the decision by the president to sack his entire cabinet is timely. Timely in the sense that, there were some certain decisions by the cabinet that didn't inspire the confidence of Kenyans. And this government was elected on the promise that it would change the lives of the people of Kenya. A lot of people had hoped that we would have achieved much more by this time. The president had indicated in his first retreat to the cabinet in Nanyuki that the cabinet had 18 months through which they would prove to him that they are capable of running those ministries. So either way, whether the agencies or the approval of or the appraisal of the cabinet secretaries was on the way. And I think this is a start that the president is serious about governance issues in this country. It will cascade down to other departments, and there's been huge sabotage from government departments, the security sector. This is just the beginning or the tip of the iceberg as more changes are coming.
You mean to say there's more changes coming?
I mean, more changes and more fundamental changes in all sectors of government. And because the president needs to deliver to Kenyans. And I think just the changes in the cabinet is just a tip of the iceberg. Yeah.
All right. Now, a few weeks ago, there was the time we saw the cabinet sitting in its entirety, and we saw all of them, around that long table, everyone, making their reports and their presentation. Someone took a picture, and someone captioned it, "The Last Supper," and it seemed somewhat poetic. Mr. Njagi, could you talk to us about your perspective on what was happening behind the scenes, the things that led us to this day when the president announces that his entire cabinet is actually heading home? Behind the scenes, take us on a journey into the mind of the president over the last few days.
Very well. You have to look at that context in the what really is a cabinet. A cabinet basically, as the name suggests, originated from an Italian word which means gabinetto, which is meant for members of loyalty and nobility. They are supposed to advise the king or the crown or the president or the prime minister in terms of running the affairs of government and in terms of day-to-day operation. Now, when the president talks about a dissolution, it means it has ceased to exist. Meaning it's like dissolving a company or an enterprise. So it's an indictment that the members who were meant to be members of nobility and loyalty have failed to execute their mandate in light to Article 153 of the Constitution, because they're supposed to advise the president. Secondly, and very importantly, are the membership that was seen there, the Last Supper, as you've correctly insinuated, members of nobility and of loyalty? The answer is a resounding no. Were those members who are sitting in that cabinet inspiring confidence and equal to the task that they are able to execute their mandate and they understand the job description? The answer is an emphatic no. So essentially, if the president really wanted to conduct the business, he was handicapped and a lame duck in terms of executing it. And I must put it, and without any fear of contradiction, that the uprising that we've seen in the last 2 weeks was actually a catalyst for him to do something that he really wanted to do. But you know that this presidency also was behooved by encumbrances in the form of political parties who had formed the Kenya Kwanza government in terms of alliances and promises of people who came to the fold, so that the blackmail could also have a reason. So if you sack X, what will happen to Y? And that's why he has even gone ahead and dissolved even the office of the Attorney General and the head of civil service. And I must draw parallels that what happened in the Kibaki regime was sacking. meaning that these people have been shown a red card. The words that we are using today and the words that were used today is dissolution. Dissolution goes to the heart and the cracks of government. Remember, this is an entire...
Which is a worse fate? Sacking, or red card, as you put it, or dissolution? Which is a worse fate?
I think the solution, as the word insinuates, it ceases to exist, meaning that the entire unit of executive is non-operational, as we see it right now. And you remember that's one third of the three-legged proverbial stool, because you have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. So that particular arm is dissolved. And in the same breath, as I close, you remember that dissolution is not a day-to-day activity. It happens when there is a crisis, because I can only foresee this in what happened recently in Israel when Benjamin Netanyahu dissolved his entire 6-member war cabinet because of the Gaza uprising, or what happened in 2006 when the Somali president also dissolved his cabinet, or what happened in 2022 when the Malawian president dissolved the entire cabinet because of corruption purge. So what has happened in Kenya is not something to be taken lightly. It should be looked with the gravitas and the magnitude it is, because it has arisen because of a tax issue, which I think is something that will go to the annals of history. It's a game changer.
Right.
It's a first.
All right. Mr. Kalende?
Yes.
The mind of the president in the last few days, do you think he agonized over whether to wipe out the entire cabinet or just make select changes?
If Kenyans are a good listener and Kenyans can recall very well, the president started talking about his cabinet when they had the first retreat about the cabinet, which was in Fairmount. He talked about his cabinet. And at some point, for the people who were there, and the media which was there, reported that some cabinet secretary and some PSs who came late for that meeting were not allowed into that meeting. Then came when the cabinet and the senior government officials were signing the performance contract at State House. Again, even the president went ahead and said that if I, the president, know more about your ministry better than you, then there's a problem. Then again, this year, early this year, when the cabinet and the whole executive was in Naivasha, the same thing. The president had to dismiss some reports from certain cabinet and certain government agency. So it is something that has been there, and it is actually what the protests gave us. It was an eye-opener and a clear indication that heads were going to roll. So even the person who said that within that photo that it was Last Supper, it was true. This thing was coming. Yes, it was coming. And I think that Kenyans need to be alive to the fact that we gave ourselves the 2010 Constitution, which was promulgated in August 2002. And in that Constitution, there is Article 10, the national values that government agency, state officers, and anybody who reads and interprets the Constitution must adhere to those national values. And it talks about integrity, it talks about governance, it talks about good governance. And majorly, the issues that we are having today in terms of Kenyans questioning the governance, in terms of Kenyans questioning the cabinet, are squarely elaborated in our Constitution. And I'm happy as an advocate that the Kenya that we have today is a Kenya of where people are informed, where people can be able to air their views, where we enjoy the democratic space that we have. So it is something that we need to nurture, we need to embrace, and we need to take charge and allow it to grow within us. As much as we are saying it's the Gen Z, but it is something that we Kenyans collectively, we feel proud, and we accept that we are going to support the president, we are going to support all the measures. And if people are very keen in his statement, he said other raft measures are going to follow. So we expect More is coming. More is coming.
All right. Now, we'll circle back on that in a moment. Now, we're just about to shift gears to talk about what's next. But I believe the last question I'd like to tackle on this would be, can we do a small, and I know this is a very unfortunate word considering, can we do a post-mortem of this cabinet? In your opinion, Mr. Boyd, where were the strengths of this cabinet, the cabinet of billionaires, so to speak? Where were the strengths and where were the weaknesses? And I'm setting this up because when we come back, I would like us to talk about the next chapter. But let's talk about this one, the one that's gone.
First, let me say that, we are unfortunate that this administration came in and they've not been so lucky to have a good coverage from the media. Two, it's not nice.
What do you mean by that, sir?
I mean, we've had the worst coverage from the media, and
the media has been antagonistic.
Yes, absolutely, not supportive of this government, and to highlight the net worth of individuals vis-a-vis what they've done. There are some people who inherited wealth. There are some people who have worked out through the journey. They've had their careers in private sector before they joined the government. But all said and done, the truth of the matter is there are people who let down the president. They were given the job to do. They didn't do as expected of them. There are cabinet secretaries who opened their own private offices and you could not find them discharging the duties as required of them. And the president was meaning when he gave them those positions, and it was up to them to really work very, very hard to deliver for the president and for the people of Kenya. Unfortunately, without looking at their net worth, because I cannot trivialize, it's not a crime to have money, but have them in the right way. I mean, I don't fault somebody who was rich before he was appointed to cabinet. And then there is the fallacy that people like Aslas and Mama Mboga should have been appointed in cabinet, which is not true.
You say it's a fallacy?
No, it's a fallacy because somebody who drives a motorcycle, he has no experience, he has no education. How will he function in cabinet? Somebody who is a fender. You see, the
expectation was that
the expectation was
representative.
No,
inclusive.
The expectation was this government cares about the people at the bottom. It didn't say that you will just be picked from the street as a Mama Mboga and sit in cabinet. I mean, there's a threshold why, on how you should be appointed as a cabinet secretary. It's not everybody who can serve in the cabinet because you're supposed to be competent, you're supposed to have the qualification, and you're supposed to have the necessary experience or the requisite experience to really drive policy and engage within all the key people in the ministry. But having said that, the president made changes, I mean, in the top hierarchy, but beneath the ministries is where there was real sabotage by people who are not supportive of this government. And I think the president should crack the whip further, even as we move forward. Like even the last demonstration, there was some real inaction of some police officers who never wanted to really protect property and life of Kenyans. So we expect more changes will be coming on the way. And President was let down in a big way by people he hadn't trusted with responsibility.
Mr. Boyd, just before we shift to the other gentleman, this is, I believe, just tonight is the second time you've mentioned the word sabotage. Just how deep does it go?
It's deep because, look, I think for some reason, people over time have not realized.
Sorry, just as you answer that, is it sabotage or incompetence?
There are two issues here. There is sabotage and incompetence. Sabotage by people who are charged with responsibility and they either deliberately, through omission or commission, don't do as required of them. Two, there are some cases of incompetence where people have been given positions which they don't deserve. And when you are given that position, you are inept in that position and you cannot discharge your duties as required and as per the functions of the ministry. So we expect a more experienced cabinet in the coming days we expect that the president would take his time to really consider the people he bring on board so that he can actually take off on all the agendas that he has for the country.
All right. Mr. Khalene, I know you're
Yes.
itching to jump in. You did say the buck stops, I mean, at least as far as President Truman, and it's become part of common language, especially when we discuss governance issues, that the buck stops with the chief executive. Now, Mr. Boyd has raised an interesting perspective, one that there may be saboteurs amongst government officials and deep inside the ministries beneath the cabinet level. Who takes responsibility for them? Who takes responsibility for the successes are easy to take care of, but the failures of this cabinet, for example, and the failures of the ministries and the, some of them, like Mr. Boyd is suggesting, the issues that stem from within, the systemic issues that stem from within. Who takes responsibility for that?
The person who takes the achievement is the same person who takes the responsibility of the failure. But from what my good colleague here has raised about sabotage, for me, I look at it from a different angle. And for me, it's about separating politics from the real issues that affect Kenyans. Instead of saying sabotage or instead of saying competence, we can see clearly, if you have been very keen, there were issues to do with the politics. And it started like an impulsion from within. There's a time where the deputy president went rogue. The deputy president disappeared for a whole week. When he reappeared, he said he had gone to the mountain to pray. We have seen people running up and down in this country. They want to be kingpins. So within the first 2 years of this government, we saw people angling for political expedience instead of delivering to the common mwananchi. There are people who were already planning for 2027. Others were planning for 2032 to inherit the current president even before his first term is over. So these are some of the challenges. And now we have an opportunity as a country. And the president has an opportunity as a country to call everybody to order, including the deputy president. That, gentlemen, it's time to deliver to Kenyans. And it's time for politics will come, 2027 will come. And he said yesterday when he was in Kajiado that in 2027, Kenyans will mark an exam. So it is that opportunity where we need to move together as a country now and ensure that the people who are given responsibility to serve, they must deliver to Kenyans and they must offer solution to the problems that affect Kenya. There's a question you asked earlier about the strength within this immediate outgoing cabinet. One of their strengths, I think, that has taken the president quite some time for 2 years to come to the conclusion to dissolve it. It is because of the comradeship within this cabinet.
What do you mean by that?
Comradeship is that basically most of the people, a huge number of the people within this cabinet are people who have worked with the president, the journey. And are the people who understand the vision that the president sold to Kenyans about Mama Mboga and Mtu wa Pikipiki. And I think the president was at a point where he believed that these are the people who shared the same ideology. These are the people who share the same theory to understand the problem of common mwananchi and be able to solve it.
But they appear to have let him down. It looks like you cannot rely on the comradeship anymore. All right. Mr. Njagi, I want you to come in and maybe launch us into a slightly different direction. Let's talk about the implication, the impact of this sort of move, dissolving the cabinet. I mean, learning from what happened with Kibaki, the examples you're giving in Malawi with the president over there, all the different places, a move like this is never received, humbly and kindly and with business as usual attitudes. Things have shaken. Dust is in the air. Talk to me about what we're likely to see when the dust settles.
Very well. what happened in the last 2 weeks, I can only equate it to the Pride Purge, which occurred in 1648 in England, when the army prevented members of House of Commons from accessing it who were considered hostile. And I think that's what happened to the Gen Z movement when they actually occupied Parliament, and the membership, which they felt voted yes, would have faced their wrath. What I also have to look into is that the president seems to be making the best from a crisis. Remember that he may have wanted to do this thing before, but the political and other ramifications would outweigh the motive. But now he has had a very good, maybe clear-cut road.
Are you saying the crisis created a chance for the president to retake initiative rather, for the discussion, the political discussion in the country? Is that what you're saying?
The script seems to be that he has made lemonade juice from the lemons that was given. And I think that's something you have to give it up to him, because now the way it is, the ramification would be much softer. There's a softer landing as opposed if it was done maybe 3 weeks ago.
All right. Well, they say the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. Now, this lemonade that we're talking about, the proof of it will be in the tasting. Talk to us about that, how this lemonade is going to taste, the impact of this. Are these people going to take this lying down? What sort of political impact are we expecting from such a move?
The narrative has changed due to what has happened in this country in the last 3 weeks, and only somebody who is foolhardy or just takes it lightly, that now the political conversation is even happening in different areas which were unknown of, like this X space. So that even these politicians, like today I was in a funeral, they are being denied an opportunity to speak. If it was 3 weeks ago, then it would be our people are being fought. So, but now, that narrative is dead on arrival, dead as a dodo, it won't sell. The ramification thereafter is what he does with these particular opportunities that have been presented to him. Remember that the Constitution envisages a situation whereby the cabinet would be not less than 14 and not exceeding 24. But he has been operating on a 21-member committee, which I think is on the higher tier. So even for him to rebuild the confidence which he desperately needs, he needs to look in terms of the numbers, in terms of also managing the wage bill, which is a big question as was raised by this particular uprising. The other question that maybe should be looked into is that what was the role of this cabinet secretary, because I hear that maybe there was sabotage or things like that. But also you must also keep in mind that the role of the cabinet secretary is to advise the president in terms of running the affairs of the government and the country. But also, what has it that the one to be advised advises his advisors, so that then is your advice being taken upon? So it is also very important for the president also to have an introspective view in terms of also listening to advice, in terms of also giving these people attitude to do their work. Because you remember that during the Kibaki regime, which was a fairly successful regime compared to the other other presidencies that we've had, when you talk about Thika Superhighway, hardly do you remember the PS was in charge of roads. Hardly do people talk about the one who was in charge of the Ministry of Roads and Public Works. But the credit goes to the president, who was Mwai Kibaki. So what is good for the goose is good for the gander. So if he wants credit for the good work that is done, he must also be ready to know he's also going to take the blame if the cabinet fails, because we know that the fish rots from the head.
All right.
Asante sana.
All right. Now, at this point, I'd like us to take a short break, a short breather. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be looking at this for posterity. What next? Those are some of the questions we're going to be digesting and extracting insight from there. But first, a short break. We'll be right back.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback, ana sniff Simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of.
What point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business, it's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata mbao ni pesa ya kusave. Wallahi. Mbao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Welcome back on Insight tonight. We were talking about the cabinet dissolution. We've run the gamut from what was in the mind of the president all the way up to the events of today. Now we want to shift gears to talk about what next. Gentlemen, I believe we're coming to you, Mr. Khalende. Talk to me about this new cabinet, the new reality, as it were. The president did say something. He says he's going to have extensive consultations across all sectors and political formations. What do you read from that statement?
For political, in what basically the president was trying to say is that he's going to do wide consultations. He's going to pick competent, able Kenyans across the board. So it doesn't mean that that there are some people who will be left behind, or he's going to form a government of national unity. But now it lies squarely under the president that he must pick competent Kenyans. He must look for merit. He must look for people who can be able to deliver on his agenda and his manifesto to Kenyans. That's what he's going to look for.
Right.
Irregardless of the political formation, irregardless of the sector, irregardless of whichever boundaries that anybody can imagine. So it's a clean slate whereby all the 50 million Kenyans who believe that they are competent enough, this is an opportunity for them to serve in this cabinet.
Right. Mr. Boyd, just before you answer the same question, tell me, from where you sit, just how big of a decision is it going to be to formulate a new cabinet within the timelines and with the current political pressure that exists? Just how much is riding on this for Mr. Ruto?
Like I said, the president is faced with the same dilemma that President Kibaki faced, where when he came into his administration, the first thing that he entrusted his friends and his buddies and people he had known all along to be cabinet secretaries. And then within 2 years, they let him down in a big way. So the president is in the same position that Kibaki was in 2005. And so he has to crack the whip. And if he was asked a question by the press, and he said, watch the space. And truthfully speaking, the president means every word that he says at this point in time. And it's not only cabinet, even to the civil service and anybody who works in government.
More changes coming.
More changes are coming, and people must really work for the people of Kenya. And this is a different, I think president had given people an opportunity, but I think now he's fully in charge of the affairs of state, and he does not want to waste time, and people either have to shape up or shape out. I mean, it's not business as usual for any person in public service now. You have to deliver what Kenyans want. And this is our country. We say everybody must play their part. Kenyans must play their part. We must be patriotic enough to point out when the mistakes have happened. We must be patriotic enough to support our government succeed, because if government succeeds, then everybody succeeds. So, I mean, this is a golden opportunity for the president to get the best and competent people to run the affairs of state. And we hope that in the next few days, he would be announcing those names, and we will have a new cabinet, and with many other changes that are on the way, we should be able to take off smoothly and deliver for the people of Kenya.
There isn't a lot of time, though. There isn't a lot of time. Do you think that much massive change in government is actually going to be counterproductive in the long run?
No, believe me, the president is a worker, and he has the time to deliver to the people of Kenya.
All right. Mr. Njagi, does an ideal cabinet exist somewhere? And if it does, what does it look like to you?
That's a very deep question, but I can only say that an ideal cabinet should actually be looked into the formation of Article 152 of the Constitution, which is very clear that the cabinet secretary are capable and they are responsible individually and collectively. Simply put, you should be your brothers and sisters' keeper. Regrettably, what we had in the freshly dissolved cabinet, there were excesses in terms of grandees, in terms of competition, who is wearing the best shoe, best watch, those kind of things. So that in the new formation, when you see your brother doing that, you should call him and put him to order, because you're also equally, collectively responsible to that particular extent. Secondly, and very importantly, is the question of understanding a job description. Because remember, some of these people may have let the president down, not because they were sabotaging him, but because they had no mental capacity or ability to conduct the business as per that office. And it's very simple, that when you put a truck driver and you entrust them to steer a ship or a plane, they're likely to crash. Not that they're sabotaging you, but because they have no basis or training in that particular field. And I would wish the new formation that is coming up, if you're appointed this time round and you feel that you're not equal to the task, don't take the job. And I think the president is equal to the task to know the right people to put into that particular offices. Lastly, the issue that service and public service is a very important thing when you're called to the high office of the cabinet secretary. And I think even the question about the office of the prime cabinet secretary, I have had some quotas saying it's unconstitutional and it should not be there. But I'm of a different view, that if you look at the formation of that particular office, the whole idea was through an executive order, which was executed sometimes in 2022 during 27th of June 2022, when he was coming into office. And the whole idea was to act like a prefect of these particular CSs. So even the prime cabinet secretary, as he is now, if he's to be retained, then he must call to order this particular CS that has been entrusted upon.
All right. Now, gentlemen, we're at that space where we just have enough time to do parting shots. Since you have the mic right now, you have the advantage and the disadvantage of so little a moment to come up with something, a message to Kenya. There's your camera right behind me. Talk to Kenya from your heart, from your mind, from your insight. What should you like to communicate about this? What should they expect?
Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for having me in this show. I would like to tell Kenyans that continuous vigilance should be in our bloodstream. It has borne fruits for the last 2 weeks, and if we keep this and we keep this momentum for the next 6 months, we are likely to have a new dispensation and a new order in this republic. And I think we all mean well. What we lacked is a strategy, and that strategy now has been found through this particular uprising. I think all vigilance and particular checks and balances, if we do it, we are likely to be all happy, and we are likely to be proud to be Kenyans.
All right. Mr. Khalende, there's your camera. Parting shots, please.
Yes, my parting shot is a quote from Professor Yuval Noah. If the future of humanity is decided in your absence because you are busy feeding and clothing your children, you and they will pay the consequences. And whenever we have an opportunity as a country, as a citizen, to participate in any activity that involves this country, all of us must participate. For those who do not have registered voter, go and get that vote. It is very important. Let us elect leaders who understand the problem, who can articulate the issue, who can tell truth to power.
All right, all right. And Mr. Boyd, your parting shots?
My parting shot is that we must encourage Kenyans to take the civic duty very seriously of making sure that they hold their leaders to account. That is number one. Number two is we demonetize our politics so that we have the best people in leadership. Most of the people who want to partake in politics are kept away because of the monies involved. If we demonetize our politics, we will get good leaders who will make good decisions for this country. Two, I would encourage Kenyans that let's be all patriotic, let's support our government, let us support what is good, let us also point out what is not right, so that we all have that progress as a country. Right. We all want Kenya to succeed.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you for coming, and I appreciate you for your insights. Good people at home and wherever it is you're watching us from, I hope you have gained some insight tonight. My name is Victor Moyakin, and I'd like to wish you a good night full of God's blessings. Till next time.